The sky above Kepler 442b burned red as explosions tore through the mining colony. Dr. Kate Morrison worked in the small medical building, her hands moving quickly as she treated wounded colonists. Blood covered her uniform and sweat dripped down her face. She had been working for 18 hours without rest. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. The Vraxian raiders had come without warning, attacking the peaceful mining settlement with heavy weapons. Their ships blocked out the sun as they fired down on the colony. Buildings collapsed. People screamed. The small defense force tried to fight back, but they were badly outnumbered. Kate had 3 medical assistants helping her. They moved between patients, doing what they could with limited supplies. Bandages were running low. Pain medication was almost gone. Kate had already used most of her emergency supplies on critical cases. The colony had sent distress signals to every nearby system. Most ignored them. Kepler 442b was too far from major trade routes, too small to matter in galactic politics. But one group had answered the call. The Dravine arrived in 3 warships. They were an ancient species that looked like massive dragons from Earth mythology. They stood 9 feet tall with scales that shimmered in different colors. They had wings that could span 20 feet. They breathed fire and fought with claws and ancient weapons alongside modern guns. The Dravine were proud warriors. They kept to themselves and rarely helped other species. Their culture valued honor above all else. They had codes and traditions that went back thousands of years. Most species in the galaxy respected them but also feared them. Commander Zarak led the Dravine forces. Her scales were copper-colored and seemed to glow in the firelight. She stood at the main gate of the colony with her warriors, holding back wave after wave of Vraxian attackers. Her roar could be heard across the entire battlefield. When she spread her wings, the enemy soldiers stumbled backward. Kate heard about the Dravine commander from wounded soldiers who came through her medical station. They spoke with awe about how she fought, how she protected human soldiers even though her own people were dying, how she refused to retreat even when the situation looked hopeless. Another explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. One of Kate's assistants screamed as part of the wall collapsed. Kate pulled her to safety and checked her for injuries. A broken arm. Kate said it quickly and moved on to the next patient. Then Kate heard a sound that made her blood run cold. It was a thunderous crash that seemed to shake the entire colony. Through the window, she saw something massive fall from the sky. Smoke rose from the main gate area. A young soldier burst through the door. His face was pale and his eyes were wide with fear. "The commander is down," he shouted. "The Dravine commander?" She took a direct hit from a plasma cannon. Kate felt her stomach drop. If Commander Zarak was dead, the defense would collapse. The Dravine warriors would retreat according to their traditions. The colony would fall within hours. "Where is she?" Kate asked, already grabbing her emergency medical kit. "At the main gate." "But doctor, you can't go out there." "The fighting is too heavy." Kate ignored him. She slung the kit over her shoulder and ran toward the door. Her assistants called after her, but she did not stop. She knew this was probably suicide. The battlefield was chaos. Laser fire filled the air. Explosions created craters in the ground, but someone had to try. She ran through smoke and flames. Twice she had to throw herself to the ground as enemy fire passed overhead. Her lungs burned from the toxic fumes. Her legs ached. But she kept running toward the main gate. When she arrived, she found Commander Zarak lying in a crater. The massive Dravine warrior was on her back. Her copper scales blackened and cracked. A huge wound tore across her chest, exposing what Kate assumed were internal organs. 3 hearts, Kate remembered from the brief species overview she had read. Dravine had 3 hearts. The commander's breathing was shallow and irregular. Her eyes were closed. Around her, other Dravine warriors fought desperately to protect their fallen leader. They formed a circle around Zarak, fighting with increased fury. Kate slid down into the crater and dropped to her knees beside the dying commander. She opened her medical kit with shaking hands. The wound was terrible. Even for a human, this would be fatal. For an alien species she barely understood, Kate had no idea what to do. She pulled out her medical scanner. The device was designed for human biology, but it could give basic readings on other species. The results made her heart sink. All 3 hearts were failing. The commander's bioelectric system was shutting down. In human terms, she was having a massive heart attack. Kate's hands moved automatically, applying pressure bandages to slow the bleeding. But she knew it was not enough. The commander needed immediate intervention. She needed something to restart her hearts and stabilize her system. Kate looked at her medical kit. She had already used most supplies. What remained were basic items: bandages, antiseptic, and one small ampule of adrenaline. The adrenaline was her emergency supply. It was meant for human soldiers in critical condition. One shot that could restart a stopped heart or keep someone alive long enough to reach proper medical care. She only had one dose left. Kate held the ampule in her hand. She knew almost nothing about Dravine biology. She did not know if human adrenaline would help or hurt. It might interact badly with the commander's bioelectric system. It might kill her faster, but doing nothing would definitely result in death. Kate could see the commander's breathing getting weaker. Her scales were losing their glow. In minutes, maybe seconds, she would be gone. Around Kate, the battle continued. Laser bolts hit the ground nearby. She could hear the Vraxian raiders getting closer. The Dravine warriors were tiring. If she was going to act, it had to be now. Kate made her decision. She loaded the ampule into her injection gun and searched for what she hoped was the primary heart, the biggest one in the center of the chest. She aimed carefully and pulled the trigger. The injection delivered the entire dose directly into the heart muscle. For a moment, nothing happened. Kate held her breath, wondering if she had just killed a galactic hero. Then Commander Zarakth's eyes snapped open and began to glow with brilliant light. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Commander Zarakth's entire body convulsed as the human adrenaline flooded through her system. Her scales began to glow brighter and brighter until Kate had to shield her eyes. Lightning crackled across the commander's body, arcing from scale to scale in brilliant blue-white flashes. Kate stumbled backward, afraid she had made a fatal mistake. The Dravine warriors around them stopped fighting for a moment, staring at their commander in shock and horror. Even the Vraxian raiders paused, uncertain about what they were witnessing. The commander's 3 hearts began beating in a rapid rhythm that Kate could actually hear. The sound was like thunder. The wound on her chest started to close, the torn flesh knitting together at a speed that should have been impossible. Steam rose from the commander's body as her internal temperature skyrocketed. Then Zarakth rose to her feet. She moved like lightning, faster than Kate had ever seen any creature move. The commander threw back her head and released a roar that shook the very ground. The sound was so loud that windows shattered in nearby buildings. The Vraxian raiders who were closest actually fell to the ground, their hands over their ears. For one terrifying moment, Kate thought the commander might attack everyone around her. The adrenaline had clearly done something unexpected to her system. Her eyes glowed with unnatural light, her claws extended to their full length. Flames leaked from between her teeth. But then the commander's legs buckled. She swayed once, twice, and collapsed back to the ground. This time she was unconscious but breathing steadily. Her hearts beat in a strong, regular rhythm. The glow faded from her scales, returning them to their normal copper color. Kate rushed forward and checked the commander's vital signs. Strong pulse, steady breathing. The chest wound had sealed itself completely, leaving only a scar. Whatever the adrenaline had done, it had somehow triggered the Dravine's natural healing abilities and supercharged them. The other Dravine warriors surrounded Kate and their fallen commander. For a moment, Kate feared they might be angry at her for touching their leader. Dravine culture was strict about physical contact. Only equals or honored friends could touch a warrior without permission. But the Dravine's second in command, a warrior named TearsHFY, simply nodded at Kate. "You saved her life, human. Help us move her to safety." Together they carried the unconscious commander back to the medical building. With their leader alive, the Dravine warriors fought with renewed strength. The sight of Zarakth rising from near death had terrified the Vraxian raiders. Within an hour, the enemy began to retreat. By nightfall, the battle was over. Kate spent the next 3 days at Commander Zarakth's side. She barely slept, constantly monitoring the alien warriors' vital signs. The medical equipment was not designed for Dravine biology, so Kate had to improvise. She learned by watching and taking careful notes. TearsHFY visited several times each day. He brought Kate food and water, insisting she eat even when she wanted to keep working. He also taught her basic facts about Dravine physiology. Their 3 hearts each served different purposes. Their bioelectric system powered their ability to breathe fire and enhance their strength. Their healing ability was normally slow, but the adrenaline had somehow accelerated it. Captain Paul Henderson, the colony's military commander, wanted to move the Dravine commander to a separate facility. He argued that having her in the main medical building was a security risk. But Kate refused. "She is my patient," Kate said firmly. "She stays where I can monitor her properly." Henderson backed down. Kate had become something of a hero to the colony. People told stories about the small human doctor who ran into the battlefield to save the alien commander. Some thought she was brave. Others thought she was crazy. Everyone agreed she had saved the colony. On the fourth day, Commander Zarakth woke up. Kate was sitting beside her bed, reading through medical files on her tablet. She looked up to find the commander's eyes open, watching her. "How long?" Zarakth asked. Her voice was rough from disuse but still powerful. 4 days, Kate replied. "You have been unconscious for 4 days." The commander tried to sit up, but Kate pushed her back down gently. "Stay still. You need to rest. Your body went through something extreme." Zarakth looked at Kate for a long moment. Then she spoke in her own language. A translation device on the wall interpreted her words. "Why did you save me, human? You had no obligation to my kind. We are not allies. We are barely acquaintances in galactic terms." Kate was tired. She had been running on stimulants and coffee for days. Her answer came without any diplomatic filtering. "Because you were dying and I am a doctor. That is all the reason I need." The commander's expression changed. Kate was not good at reading alien faces, but she thought she saw surprise. Maybe even wonder. Zarakth slowly reached out with one massive clawed hand and gently touched Kate's shoulder. The touch was surprisingly gentle for such a powerful creature. TearsHFY, who had been standing guard at the door, made a sound of astonishment. He stepped forward quickly and spoke to his commander in their language. The translation device caught parts of it. Words about honor and tradition and unprecedented gestures. "What did I do?" Kate asked, suddenly worried she had violated some cultural rule. Zarakth kept her hand on Kate's shoulder. "Among my people, this touch is the highest sign of respect. It means I acknowledge you as an equal, as someone worthy of trust and honor. It is not given lightly." Kate felt her face flush. She had not been trying to earn respect or honor. She had just been doing her job. "You gave me something precious of yours to save me," Zarakth continued. "That medicine, it was your last dose, yes? You could have used it on your own people, but you chose to use it on me, an alien you did not know." Kate nodded. "Yes, it was my last dose. In our culture, this creates a life debt. But more than that, it reveals character. You did not hesitate. You did not calculate worth or politics or potential benefits. You simply acted to preserve life." The commander slowly sat up, waving away Kate's protests. She looked stronger now, more like the powerful warrior Kate had seen at the gate. "My people have watched humans for many years. We see you as crude newcomers, violent, unpredictable. We did not trust you." Kate felt a flash of anger but stayed quiet. She was too tired to argue galactic politics. "But I was wrong," Zarakth said. "I see now that humans have something many older species have lost. You have compassion that does not calculate, bravery that does not wait for permission. You act on what is right, not what is traditional or safe." She squeezed Kate's shoulder gently before releasing her. "That is dangerous. But it is also beautiful. The galaxy needs more of this dangerous beauty." News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within a week, everyone knew about the human doctor who saved a Dravine commander. The story spread through trading posts and military bases. It was told in bars and government buildings. Each telling added new details, some true and some imagined. The Dravine were one of the oldest and most respected warrior cultures in known space. When they called for a formal gathering of the Galactic Council, everyone paid attention. The council only met for matters of extreme importance: wars, trade disputes, major treaties. Not for stories about battlefield medicine. Kate received the summons 2 weeks after the battle. She was back at work in the Colony Medical Center, treating miners for the usual injuries and illnesses. Life had mostly returned to normal. The colony was being rebuilt. The Dravine had left, though TearsHFY visited occasionally to check on Kate and bring gifts from his people. The official message came through the colony's communication system. Kate was requested to appear before the Galactic Council on Unity 7, the neutral station where major diplomatic meetings were held. The message was polite but firm. This was not optional. Captain Henderson helped Kate prepare. He gave her a dress uniform and briefed her on council protocol. Do not speak unless spoken to. Address ambassadors by their proper titles. Do not make sudden movements around species that might interpret them as threats. Kate felt sick with worry. She was a doctor, not a diplomat. She had no training in politics or public speaking. The thought of standing before representatives of 17 different species terrified her, more than running into a battlefield had. The trip to Unity 7 took 3 days by fast transport. Kate spent the time reading everything she could find about the Council and its members. She learned about complex alliances and old grudges. She read about trade agreements and territory disputes. None of it made her feel better prepared. Unity 7 was massive. The station housed thousands of diplomats, staff, and security personnel. It had gardens that simulated dozens of different planetary environments. It had meeting halls large enough to hold thousands. Kate felt impossibly small as her transport docked. An escort met her at the airlock. A tall woman named Beth Collins from the Human Diplomatic Corps. Beth had been working on Unity 7 for 5 years and knew how things worked. She walked Kate through the station's corridors, pointing out important locations and giving last-minute advice. The main thing is to stay calm, Beth said. Answer questions honestly but briefly. Do not volunteer extra information. And whatever you do not get into arguments with the ambassadors. Some of them will try to provoke you. The council chamber was beyond anything Kate had imagined. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet overhead. Viewing galleries surrounded the central floor where Kate would stand. Representatives from 17 species sat in elevated sections, arranged in a complex pattern that reflected their political relationships. Kate stood in the center of it all, wearing her simple uniform, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes watching her. She wanted to run. She wanted to be back in her medical center where things made sense. Commander Zarakth stood to speak first. The Dravine commander had fully recovered and looked magnificent in ceremonial armor. Her copper scales gleamed under the chamber's lights. Her voice carried easily through the massive space. Zarakth told the story of the battle. She described the defense of the colony, her own injury and Kate's decision to use the last adrenaline dose. She spoke with obvious respect and gratitude. When she finished, she bowed toward Kate, a gesture of honor that made the audience murmur in surprise. But then the opposition spoke. Ambassador Velsheen of the Karathi Collective stood. The Karathi looked like large insects with multiple arms and compound eyes. They had been in several territorial disputes with humans over colony rights. This is a touching story, Velsheen said, his voice translated by the chamber's systems. But it proves nothing. One act of compassion does not erase humanity's history of violence and expansion. If anything, this demonstrates their unpredictability. The human acted without knowledge or wisdom. Only luck saved the commander. What if the injection had killed her instead? Would we be praising human recklessness then? Other voices joined in. Ambassador Cree of the Thelian Assembly questioned Kate's motives. Perhaps she had acted to gain political favor. Perhaps she hoped to put the Dravine in debt to humanity. Perhaps it was all calculated from the start. The accusations hurt more than Kate expected. She had acted from simple compassion with no thought of politics or gain. But these ambassadors saw schemes and plots in everything. Beth Collins tried to defend Kate, but was overruled on procedural grounds. The human delegation had limited speaking rights because Earth was still a probationary member of the Council. They could observe but not fully participate in debates. Finally, the council moderator gave Kate permission to speak. She approached the central platform on shaking legs. Her mouth was dry. Her heart pounded. She thought about all the protocol Beth had taught her, all the careful diplomatic language she should use. Then she looked up at the assembled ambassadors and decided to just tell the truth. "I am not a politician," Kate said. Her voice was quiet at first but grew stronger. "I am not a soldier. I am not a diplomat. I am a doctor. That is all I have ever been." She looked directly at Ambassador Velsheen. "When I saw Commander Zarakth dying, I did not see a political opportunity. I did not see a strategic asset. I did not calculate potential benefits or risks. I saw a person who needed help." Kate's hand stopped shaking as she found her rhythm. "You call it unpredictability. I call it refusing to let categories determine who lives and who dies. Yes, I acted without perfect knowledge, but I acted because doing nothing was not acceptable to me." She turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. Maybe that is what frightens you about humans. We do not always follow the proper procedures. We do not always calculate the political impact. When someone needs help, we help them. When someone is dying, we try to save them. Maybe we are reckless. Maybe we are naive. But we are not going to change. The chamber was silent. Kate could hear her own breathing in that vast space. She had probably just destroyed Earth's chances at full council membership. She had probably ended her own career. But she had told the truth. Then Commander Zarakth stood again. The human speaks truth that should shame us all. We have become so concerned with protocols and precedents that we have forgotten simple courage. We debate and discuss while people die. We calculate political costs while crises unfold. The commander's voice grew stronger. I propose that humanity be granted full membership in this council, with all rights and responsibilities. They have proven they possess something we desperately need: the courage to act, the compassion to care, the strength to do what is right even when it is not safe. The vote that followed took hours. There were debates and counter-proposals and parliamentary maneuvers. But when it finally concluded, humanity had won full council membership by a narrow margin. Earth would have a full vote in galactic affairs. Human ships would have access to all trade routes. Human colonies would receive the same protections as any other species. Kate had achieved in one speech what decades of careful diplomacy had failed to accomplish. Kate returned to Kepler 442b expecting her life to go back to normal. She wanted to treat patients and work in her medical center and forget about galactic politics. But normal was no longer possible. The story of the human doctor and the Dravine commander had spread across thousands of worlds. Some species told it as a tale of honor. Others told it as a story of foolish luck. But everyone told it. Kate's name became known in places she had never heard of. More importantly, the story began to change how species treated each other. A Zentari physician named Kelvar saved a Karathi soldier using experimental cross-species treatment. He said Kate's example had inspired him to try. A Thelian engineer named Vor risked his life to rescue human colonists from a collapsing mine. He said if a human could save a Dravine, he could save humans. Small acts of courage rippled outward. Barriers that had existed for centuries began to crack. Species that had never trusted each other started to cooperate in small ways. It was not a revolution. It was more like a slow thaw. But it was real. Not everyone was happy. Within human government and military, a faction led by General Marcus Webb saw the attention as dangerous. Webb was a career officer who believed in human strength and independence. He did not trust aliens and did not like that Kate had made humanity look soft. Morrison set a bad precedent, Webb argued in military briefings that were later leaked. She showed that humans will sacrifice their own resources for aliens. That makes us look weak. That makes us a target. Kate found herself at the center of human political debates. Some people called her a hero who had elevated Earth's status. Others called her reckless and naive. Some accused her of wasting critical supplies that should have been saved for humans. Political shows debated her actions endlessly. The criticism hurt. Kate had never wanted fame or attention. She had just wanted to save a life. Now her name was attached to political movements she did not support and causes she did not believe in. People projected their own beliefs onto her actions, but the Dravine honored Kate in their own way. Commander Zarakth invited her to Dravos Prime, the Dravine homeworld. No human had ever been invited before. The Dravine were intensely private about their culture and homeland. Kate almost declined. She had work to do. She did not want more attention. But Beth Collins convinced her to go. This is important, Beth explained. The Dravine do not give invitations lightly. Refusing would be a massive insult. Dravos Prime was beautiful and terrifying. The planet had massive mountains and deep valleys. Active volcanoes dotted the landscape. The Dravine built their cities into cliffsides and mountain peaks. Their architecture was ancient and elegant, designed for beings who could fly. The ceremony took place in a vast amphitheater carved into living rock. Thousands of Dravine attended. Kate stood in the center while Commander Zarakth explained the honor being given. Kate was being inducted into the Flame Guard, an honor society of warriors who had demonstrated exceptional courage. Kate was the first non-Dravine ever to receive this recognition. The ceremony involved fire and ritual chanting. At the end, Zarakth placed a copper bracelet on Kate's wrist. The metal was warm to the touch and seemed to glow faintly. "This marks you as one of us," Zarek said. "You will always have a place among the Draveen. You will always have our protection and friendship." After the ceremony, Zarek showed Kate something few outsiders had ever seen. The Hall of Names was a vast cavern deep inside a mountain. The walls were covered in glowing inscriptions. Each one recorded an act of true honor in Draveen history. The inscriptions went back 10,000 years. Kate saw names of warriors who had died protecting their people, leaders who had made difficult choices for the greater good, healers who had saved lives against impossible odds, the history of an entire civilization recorded in fire and stone. Near the entrance, in fresh inscription that still glowed bright, Kate saw her own name. Dr. Kate Morrison, healer, warrior of compassion, savior of Commander Zarakth. The inscription was written in both Draveen script and human English. Kate felt tears in her eyes. She was not a warrior. She was just a doctor. But seeing her name among these heroes made her understand what she had accomplished. Not just saving a life, but changing how species saw each other. "You gave more than medicine that day," Zarakth said quietly as they stood before the glowing wall. "You gave hope. Hope that the galaxy might be better than we had allowed it to become." The greatest change came months later. A young Draveen named Kiraseth announced she wanted to become a medic, trained in cross-species medicine. In Draveen culture, healing was respected but warriors were glorified. For a young Draveen to choose medicine over combat was unusual. Kiraseth said Kate had inspired her. She wanted to learn to save lives across the biological spectrum. She wanted to be like the human doctor who had not hesitated to help. Others followed. Within a year, volunteers from a dozen species came forward. They wanted to study cross-species medicine. They wanted to learn to heal beings different from themselves. This led to the creation of a new institution. The Galactic Medical Corps brought together healers from every species. They trained together, learning each other's biology and medical techniques. They developed protocols for treating injuries across species lines. Kate was offered the position of founding director. The salary was huge. The prestige was enormous. It would have made her one of the most important people in the galaxy. She declined. "I am not an administrator," she told the council representatives who offered her the job. "I am a doctor. Let someone else build the institution. I will just keep doing the work." Instead, Kate accepted a position at Unity Hope, a frontier medical station funded by a coalition of species. The station was located on the edge of explored space. It served colonists, traders, explorers, and anyone else who needed medical care. The work was hard. The patients came from dozens of species, each with different biology and needs. But Kate loved it. She was saving lives. She was making a real difference. And she was not sitting in meetings or giving speeches. Commander Zarakth visited when her duties allowed. The Draveen commander had become one of humanity's strongest advocates on the council. She and Kate had formed a genuine friendship. They would sit together in the station's observation lounge watching ships come and go, talking about everything and nothing. "Do you ever regret it?" Zarakth asked one evening. "That injection changed your life forever." You could have walked away. Kate thought about it. Her life had become complicated. She received hate mail from xenophobes. She got requests for interviews and appearances that she always declined. She could not go anywhere without being recognized, but she also thought about the lives saved. The barriers broken, the hope she had given to people across the galaxy. "No," Kate said finally. "I made a choice to save a life. Everything that came after, the politics and attention and conflict, that was other people's reaction to a simple decision. I cannot regret doing what I knew was right." Zarakth made a sound that Kate had learned was Draveen laughter. "That is what makes humans dangerous. You are dangerously compassionate, dangerously brave. You refuse to accept the limits that others place on what is possible. Is that really so dangerous?" Kate asked with a smile. "To those who profit from division and fear? Absolutely." Zarakth placed her clawed hand on Kate's shoulder in that gesture of respect they had shared so many times. "That is why the galaxy needs more dangerous humans like you." 5 years passed. Kate worked at Unity Hope Medical Station, treating an endless stream of patients from across the galaxy. She had assembled a team of doctors from 8 different species. They worked together smoothly now, their initial awkwardness replaced by genuine cooperation and friendship. The station itself had grown. What started as a small facility with 20 beds had expanded to over 200. Ships came from hundreds of light years away seeking treatment. Unity Hope had earned a reputation as the best cross-species medical facility in the galaxy. Kate was proud of what they had built. More importantly, she was proud that similar facilities were opening across known space. The Galactic Medical Corps was training thousands of doctors in cross-species medicine. The idea that had started with one desperate injection on a battlefield was now changing how the entire galaxy approached healthcare. Commander Zarakth still visited regularly. The Dravine warrior had aged gracefully, her copper scales now showing threads of silver. She had retired from active combat but served on the Galactic Council, where she was known as a voice of wisdom and compassion. On the 5-year anniversary of the battle at Kepler 442b, something unexpected happened. Kate was finishing her shift when her communication terminal chimed. The message was from Ambassador Velsheen, the Karathi who had questioned her motives before the council. Kate almost deleted it without reading. She had no warm feelings for Velsheen, but curiosity made her open the message. "Dr. Morrison," it began, "I write to inform you that my daughter was saved last month by a human physician named Dr. Greg Park. She was injured in a transport accident. The local medical facilities could not help her because they did not understand Karathi biology, but Dr. Park had trained in the Galactic Medical Corps. He used techniques developed through your example." The message continued. "I opposed you before the council. I questioned your motives and your judgment. I was wrong. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about your species. I was wrong about many things. My daughter is alive because a human doctor learned to see past species differences. Thank you for teaching an old diplomat that courage matters more than protocol." Kate read the message 3 times. She felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had never expected Velsheen to change his mind. She had accepted that some people would always see the worst in humanity, but this message proved that minds could change. Hearts could soften. Even old prejudices could fade. That evening, Kate stood at the observation deck of Unity Hope. Below her, the docking bays were busy with activity. A Dravine merchant ship unloaded cargo next to a human freighter. A Karathi family walked through the garden section with a Thelian tour guide. Children of 3 different species played together in the recreation area. It was a small thing. Dozens of species lived and worked throughout the galaxy. But the ease of it, the naturalness, was new. 10 years ago, different species kept to themselves. They traded but did not socialize. They coexisted but did not cooperate. Now things were different. Not everywhere, not even in most places, but enough to matter, enough to give hope. Zarakth found Kate at the observation deck. The Dravine commander had come for a scheduled visit. She stood beside Kate, looking down at the busy station. "It is beautiful, is it not?" Zarakth said. "This is what you created." Kate shook her head. "I did not create this. I just made one decision. Other people did the real work. You are too modest. That one decision rippled outward in ways you cannot fully see. Because you saved my life, I was able to advocate for humanity on the council. Because I advocated, humans gained full membership. Because humans joined, other species began to see them differently. Each change led to more changes." Zarakth gestured at the scene below. That Dravine merchant would never have traded with humans 10 years ago. That Karathi family would never have come to a human-run facility. Those children would never have played together. Your single act of compassion broke down walls that had stood for centuries. Kate thought about it. She thought about all the lives saved by doctors trained in cross-species medicine. She thought about the friendships formed and the prejudices overcome. She thought about Ambassador Velsheen's daughter, alive because of techniques that would not exist without that desperate injection on a battlefield. "I just could not let you die," Kate said quietly. "I am a doctor. Saving lives is what I do." "And that," Zarakth replied, "is exactly why your action mattered so much. You did not save me for political gain.
You did not do it to be a hero.
You did it because to you, letting someone die when you could help was unacceptable. That simple refusal to accept unnecessary death is what the galaxy needed to see." Far below, in the medical wing, a team of doctors worked to save a Vraxian raider who had been injured attacking a convoy. The raider would survive. He would face justice for his crimes. But he would live. Not because of politics or strategic value, but because the doctors at Unity Hope treated everyone who came through their doors One of the doctors working on the Vraxian was a young Dravine woman. Kira Seth had graduated from the Galactic Medical Corps 2 years ago and joined Kate's team. She was an excellent physician, skilled at treating multiple species. She often told new staff about the human doctor who had inspired her to pursue medicine. Kate's terminal chimed again. Another message. This one was from Earth. The Human Medical Association wanted to give Kate their highest honor. The message included details about a ceremony and requests for interviews. Kate deleted it. She had declined a dozen similar honors over the years. She did not want awards or ceremonies. She just wanted to do her work. Zarak saw Kate's expression. You still refuse the recognition. I do not need it. The work is enough. The Dravine commander nodded. That is another thing that makes you special. You do not need glory to motivate you. You do not need praise to continue. You simply do what is right, because it is right. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the galaxy go about its business. After a while, Zarak spoke again. I am old now, Kate. For a Dravine, I have lived a long life. I have fought in wars and served on councils. I have seen empires rise and fall. But my greatest honor was being saved by you. Not because you saved my life, though I am grateful for that, but because in saving me you showed me what the galaxy could become. Kate felt tears in her eyes. She and Zarak had become true friends over the years. The thought of losing her was painful. You are not that old, Kate said, forcing a smile. You have years left, perhaps. But whether I have years or decades, I am at peace. I have seen change that I never thought possible. I have watched species learn to trust each other. I have seen compassion spread across the stars. That is a legacy worth having. Zarak placed her hand on Kate's shoulder one last time. And you, my friend, have created a legacy that will outlive both of us. Long after we are gone, doctors will save lives across species boundaries. Long after we are dust, people will remember that one human refused to let categories determine worth. That is immortality more valuable than any monument. Kate thought about the future. She thought about doctors being trained right now who would save lives she could never imagine. She thought about children who would grow up in a galaxy where cross-species cooperation was normal, not exceptional. She thought about all the small choices people would make, inspired by her example, that would ripple outward in ways impossible to predict. She had not set out to change the galaxy. She had just been a doctor doing her job. But sometimes that was enough. Sometimes one person's simple refusal to accept the unacceptable could start something bigger than themselves. Below, a new ship docked. Patients disembarked seeking treatment. Kate's team was ready. They would save as many as they could. They would treat everyone with the same care regardless of species or status. They would do it not for glory or recognition, but because it was right. And somewhere else in the galaxy, another doctor would face a similar choice. Another person would have to decide between safe protocol and dangerous compassion. And maybe, just maybe, they would remember the story of a human medic who used her last adrenaline shot on a dying alien dragon. Maybe they would choose compassion. Maybe they would act. Maybe they would save a life that would ripple outward in its own unexpected ways. That, Kate thought, was the real legacy. Not monuments or honors, but the simple idea that every life had value. That courage mattered. That compassion could cross any boundary. It was a dangerous idea, but the galaxy needed more dangerous ideas like that.